This is our presentation. It is called Helping Students Jump into More Interesting and Challenging Verb Choices. Okay. All right. So a little bit about us. My name is Nina Triplo. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in French with a minor in linguistics from the State University of New York at New Paltz. I am currently getting dual certified to teach ENL and world language, French, in the dual certification program at New York University. Currently, I'm most interested in teaching ENL for grades K through 5. Currently, I work as a TA at a public school in Manhattan called PS 158. And I also participated in the teaching assistant program in France from September 21 to May 2022, where I taught English to young kids. And I have about 4 years of experience with EFL teaching, tutoring, and also French tutoring.
Excellent. And Nina, very quickly before I introduce myself, can you please give them the overview of what they can expect for the
Yes.
duration of our workshop? Yes.
For today's presentation, we are starting out with some introductions. We're going to introduce ourselves, and we also want to hear from you. Then we're going to lead into a short warm-up activity just to kind of get us thinking about what we're going to be doing during this presentation. Then we will go into some breakout rooms, have some discussions about the warm-up activity. And then we'll start with our main presentation of our topic, the linguistic components and the cultural influences of the subject. Then we will lead into some instructional suggestions and classroom activity examples. And then we will go into a breakout room and we will start to create our own grammar activities based on our topic. So you'll get the chance to kind of explore your own ideas and create some of your own activities. Then we will be able to share some of the activities we created in our groups. And at the end, there will be time for a Q&A.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for that, Nina. And now I'm very quickly going to introduce myself. So my name is Julian Colon. I earned my Bachelor of Arts in Linguistics with a minor in anthropology from the City University of New York, Brooklyn College. I've amassed about 2 years of teaching experience. Currently, I work as an adult ESOL instructor at the Center for Family Life, which is a nonprofit DYCD funded organization in the Sunset Park neighborhood of Brooklyn. I teach at all levels from beginner to advanced, and I work mainly with the immigrant populations in and around Sunset Park, who are predominantly L1 Spanish and L1 Chinese speakers. And in addition to my teaching work, I'm also an NYU Steinhardt graduate student pursuing an MA in TESOL with a particular focus and interest in sociolinguistics, second language acquisition research, and intercultural learning. So now that brings us into, all right, your introduction. So we want to get to know all of you just a little bit better. So please, what we'd like for you to do is in the chat, if you feel so inclined to do so, please type your name, your affiliation, so your job title, where you work, how long you've been in that position, in addition to what brought you to this particular workshop. What are you hoping to get out of our time together? So I'll give you a few moments to do that. And as you do so, I will be reading through the chat. Very interested to get to know our attendees.
Okay, so we have some ESL teachers in the crowd. Good.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Dom.
Alright.
I too enjoy a good verb.
Yes.
Joan, thank you so much for sharing.
Alright.
Including Sunset Park. Okay, so you're familiar. All right. Excellent, excellent. Lorraine, thank you so much for sharing.
I also had L1s at Sunset Park who were
Mhm,
Chinese speakers who told me
mhm.
I was wonderful and I hardly believed it.
Well, that's so
Well, I'm
nice.
sure that you were wonderful, Joan. I can tell just from your exuberant energy that you were definitely a very good teacher to them. So James, thank you so much for sharing. A
Awesome.
lot of very experienced attendees in the audience today. I love it. I love it. So I'm very much hoping that this can be, our time together can be mutually beneficial, right? So I'm hoping that we can also teach each other. We definitely want to tap into that
Great.
breadth of experience that we all have. Alex, thank you so much for sharing. Alex, well, that's the evaluation form. Judith, thank you so much. 20 years, incredible. Stefan. Very good. Thank you, Stefan. Hi, Elise, Teresa. Since COVID, I had to work online only. Yes, so I'm familiar with that experience. For my first year of teaching was actually online because I began at the height of the pandemic. So I am familiar with that. I was teaching with community impact with Columbia University. Pat, thank you for sharing. Okay, Chris, 40 years. My goodness, that is incredible. Chris, Hugh and Nancy. Amazing. So from just a very quick look at the chat, we can see that we are joined by a lot of very experienced, diversely experienced individuals in different sectors, nonprofit, college instructors, K through 12 instructors, and we are all just so happy that you were able to attend our workshop today. So now we're going to get into our warm-up activity. So
Okay.
for
Alright.
our warm-up activity, we're going to show you 5 different phrases. And for each phrase, what we'd like for you to do is to type into the chat the first thing that comes to mind in terms of its meaning. So you'll see the phrase on the screen. You're going to type, well, what do you think it means? The first thing that comes into your mind. Okay, is everyone ready? Yes. Okay, so let's get started.
Awesome.
So consider this phrase, put off. The first thing that comes to mind, what do you think that means?
Delay.
Okay, Lorraine says delay, procrastinate, James, postpone, negative response, push away, ignore, dislike, procrastinate. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're seeing some variations in meaning, which is excellent because we're definitely going to be working a lot with that in just a moment. Okay, do a later time, absolutely.
All right.
So now the next phrase we have turn down. What do we think that means? First thing that pops into your brain. Reject, refuse, reject, disappointed, reject. Yeah, absolutely. Fold over like bed covers. Yes. Yep, that is an interesting take, less commonly thought about, but yes, absolutely. Lorraine, good take. All right. So now consider this next one, make up. What do we think? Make up. Cosmetics, Elise says cosmetic, reconcile, make peace, invent, get ready for, make up. Absolutely, absolutely. Redo something, Chris, thank you for that, very good. Now consider this phrase, take off. What do we think? go, remove, nudity. Yes, we definitely certainly can go that route down.
Light. Okay, good.
Light speed, yeah, full speed ahead.
Yeah.
Excellent. Really enjoy that. And now finally, our last one. Bring up. What do we think? Raise, mention, raise children. Mhm. Absolutely. Raise. Seeing a lot of raises.
Mhm.
Introduce. Yeah, absolutely. Introduce, talk about. All right, excellent. So now that we've had a moment to consider these phrases out of context, right? We haven't been given a specific context. Now what we're going to do is, Nina.
Okay, so we are going to talk about these phrases in context. So we are going to show you some sentences using the previous phrases, and then we're going to think about what they might mean in context. Okay.
All right.
so-
And the main point of this of the second half of this activity, we really want you to think to yourself, does the phrase still mean what I initially thought it meant?
Yes.
Now that you have been given a context, and we're going to use those thoughts as part of the post-activity discussion.
Yes.
Okay. So
All right.
the first sentence in context.
Okay, so he was put off by her impolite behavior. In this example, does put off still mean what you initially thought it meant? So we're gonna
Yes,
think
just
about
think
that.
about that for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Put off, given the context, does it still mean what you initially thought it meant?
Mm-hmm.
It says
Alright.
yes. Yeah, at least one of the meanings. Absolutely. All right, very good. We're getting to the point. Yeah. James, no. Brigitte, yes. Excellent.
Okay.
So now the next one.
All right. So after careful consideration, John made the decision to turn down the job offer. In this example, does turn down still mean what you initially thought it meant? Let's think about that.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of yeses. So
Okay.
many of you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, so turn down the job offer. Let's take a look at the next one.
Okay. Long after their intense feud, Bob and Susan finally decided to make up. Okay, and again, in this example, does make up still mean what you thought it did?
No. Yeah, yes from Dom. Don got it. Nancy, no. A lot of no's for this one. Okay, which is good.
All right.
Which is good. Okay. How about this one?
All right. My business will really take off if I can find the right clientele. In this example, does take off mean what you initially thought?
Glad you enjoyed that one, Joan. No, a lot of no's. All right. And now we're really getting to the meat of the matter. But I thought this way too. Yeah, Don, exactly. All right. So, and the final one.
All right. With the boy's parents nowhere to be found, Henry decided to bring up the child on his own. In this example, does bring up mean what you thought it did?
Mhm.
I see a lot of no's in the
A lot of
chat.
no's, a few yeses sprinkled in there as well.
No.
Lorraine, yes. Shay Jones, absolutely no. All right, very good. Some strong emotions in the chat. No, but it's possible,
but
of course.
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Dom. Absolutely. So now that we've had a chance to look at these sentences now in context, right, and consider, right, all the possible interpretations of the phrases, with your peers, we're going to separate everyone into breakout rooms, and I'd like for you to very briefly discuss this question with each other. Okay, so based on the examples that we just saw, why might these phrases be difficult for English language learners to comprehend and use? So we're going to make breakout rooms very quickly. You're going to discuss this with your peers, and then we're going to come back to the main room and discuss it as a whole. Okay, so I'm creating the breakout rooms now. Recreate number of breakout rooms. Okay, excellent. So now everyone should have received an invitation. You may join your breakout room and very briefly discuss this question. Here we have a few, so just one. So GINAC, are you having trouble joining the breakout room? Are you not able to join for whatever reason? No response. That's okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
So yeah, we have a couple. So Julian, okay.
Good morning, Christina.
Christina.
How are you? Okay. So Nina, we're already at 16 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so we definitely need to pick up the pace a little bit.
All right.
So we'll give them about another minute or two to talk about this.
Okay.
All right, and then I am going to lead the group discussion, which will then segue into the linguistic components of phrasal verbs, which you will be introducing.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right, we're at 17 now. So about one more minute. Let me broadcast that message to everybody.
Did we have some people who didn't end up in the breakout rooms? Is that what happened?
We did have one person that had just come in, Christina. I'm not sure if she may have left.
No.
She may have left, and then we have GINAC who must not be able to join the rooms.
Okay.
Right. So I've just broadcasted a message to all the rooms
Okay.
that they have about one more minute to discuss. And then, like I said, I will have them all return to the main room. We'll discuss it a little bit. We'll write down a few of the most salient points that they've made, and then we'll move on to the linguistic components.
Okay.
All right.
And like everyone really seemed to interact with the warm-up activity. Which was
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Absolutely. It's going very well. We just need to be mindful of the time.
Right. Yes.
So we need to be very mindful of the time.
How many minutes are we at now?
We're just nearing 19 minutes.
Okay.
So we definitely need to be mindful of that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to close all the rooms now. Hopefully they've been able to discuss a few points with one another.
Okay.
Back, Olivia. So everyone should be returning within the next 30 seconds.
All right. Awesome.
Welcome back, everyone. Everyone's beginning to slowly roll back in. Olivia, Stefan. I was about to say Nina, but you are in fact my co-host.
I'm here.
Good. Okay.
All right.
So I do realize that that was a relatively short amount of time, but hopefully you were all able to discuss maybe at least one or two salient points in regards to this question. So now very quickly, I'd like for us to now discuss as a whole group, and we're going to write down a few of our most salient points. So the question was, why might these phrases be difficult for English language learners to understand? Now, what were some of the things that you were all able to talk about in your rooms? Anyone can chime in, please.
Well, we started out talking about how English language learners may have learned the base form of the verb, put, turn, take, and so on. But then when they see the preposition added, that right away gives a new meaning to that combined, idiom, if you will.
Right. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
we agreed that it's examples, seeing the idioms used in many different examples.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Lorraine brings up a very good point about how many English language learners, they are first introduced to the base form of verbs, right? The separate individual morphemes within the phrases, right? So we have, for example, we have take off. They're introduced to take, they're introduced to off, but when they're put together, right? When we have the added preposition, the added particle, it changes meaning, right? So absolutely. Any other thoughts? Any other things that we discussed in our rooms?
We talked about
Yes.
how each phrasal verb has multiple meanings.
Yes, absolutely. Hit the nail right on the head with that one, Nancy. Thank you very much. All right. So each phrasal verb has multiple meanings, right? Which really adds to the complexity of not only how we teach these phrases to ELLs, but also their comprehension of what we're teaching them. There are many, many different meanings. All right. Maybe one
to
more.
add to that,
Yes,
to
please.
add to that, then we also said that it's best taught in context.
Yes.
With the many examples.
Yeah, absolutely, Gloria. Thank you. Right. So as we saw just in the few examples that we looked at together, phrasal verbs are highly contextual. And for English language learners, it's almost explicitly necessary to provide these phrases in context for them to truly be able to comprehend what they mean. Okay. So excellent points, 3 absolutely incredible points there. Thank you for sharing. So now, all right, you all pretty much hit the nail exactly on the head, right? So all of these phrases can be interpreted differently based on the context. Like we said, they're highly contextual. Put off, for example, can mean to feel repelled by or to postpone something. Turn down, to reject or to reduce something like volume or heat. Make up, to forgive, make peace with, or to create or fabricate like a story or an excuse. Take off, to become successful, to remove something, to deduct a part of an amount, or a period away from work, right? To take time off from work. And finally, to bring up, right? To raise or take care of, or to mention something, right? To bring something up in conversation. So as we can see, they're highly nuanced and is a very complex grammar concept to teach to our ELLs. All right, so that leads us into Nina.
Okay, so we are going to talk about what exactly a phrasal verb is, which is the topic of our presentation. Okay, so phrasal verb, defined by Oxford Dictionary, is an idiomatic phrase consisting of a verb and another element, typically either an adverb, a preposition, or a combination of both in addition to the verb. Okay, so the nature of phrasal verbs is such that their meaning can't be interpreted, as we mentioned before, by the individual parts of the word. So I forgot, Julian, who mentioned that the phrasal verb has two separate parts, or like English language learners will learn
Mhm.
the meaning of the word, for example, say put,
Yeah.
and the meaning of the word off.
Mhm.
They won't necessarily learn, like it'll be difficult for them to learn together that put off
Yes.
means to delay something,
Yes.
or like he was put off by her response, like to get
Yes.
offended.
Mhm.
So that's why they can be very challenging for English
Mhm.
learners.
Mhm.
So as we said before, put off, turn down, make up, take off, bring up are only 5 of many phrasal verbs that are used all the time in English. Okay, so this is
Hmm.
my favorite cartoon.
Oh,
I couldn't wait to present it. Okay. So the teacher says, "What are you reading?" And the student says, "The history of glue. It's impossible to put down." So
multiple
that's kind of
meanings.
illustrating that the phrasal verb put down, he could mean like he can't put it down because it's glued to his hands. It could also mean that like, oh, it's so good he can't put it down. But on the other hand, does he mean like you're insulted by something? Like this phrasal verb put down has so many different meanings.
Mhm.
Um but in this case, he literally cannot put it down. Okay. Okay, so why are these so challenging for English language learners? This is why we're here. This is what we're learning. Okay, so because the phrasal verbs have several different meanings and are almost entirely related to context, they rely on context to interpret them correctly. Often L's will only consider the literal meaning of the phrase. So, for example, put down, they will only consider like put down means, oh, he put the book down on the table. And it's
Mhm.
difficult for them to grasp the idiomatic meaning of the phrasal verb.
Mhm.
So, like, oh, he put down the girl. Like, they won't understand, like, it'll be difficult for them to understand that
Mhm.
that means, oh, he insulted the girl.
Mhm.
So how they can be figurative is challenging.
Mhm.
While phrasal verbs can be taught syntactically using grammatical structure, so we can teach it as a phrasal verb is a verb plus a preposition. This does not help with allowing them to understand the meaning and how to use phrasal verbs. So with that being said, it's really important when teaching these verbs to focus on all 3 dimensions: form, meaning, and use.
Which we will be discussing subsequently. We're going to be
Yes.
talking about that in further slides. So interestingly enough, there are also various cultural influences that add to the complexity of this grammatical concept. So phrasal verbs are very closely associated and most often found and commonly used in the English language. They do exist in a few other languages, a few examples of such being German, Dutch, Hungarian, Romani, French. However, most languages either have very few phrasal verbs that are infrequently used, such as those that can be found in Spanish, similar phrases that function differently and aren't identified as phrasal verbs, as are found in several Slavic languages, and some don't make use of phrasal verbs at all, such as in Chinese or Japanese. So it's important to consider the cultural influence of this grammatical concept as well. When we are trying to teach it to our students, it's important to consider their L1 and how that influences their interpretation and perception of these phrases. They may have never heard of them before or used one in their life, right? So deliberately or not, right, for all of these reasons, right, for all of the aforementioned reasons, phrasal verbs are often avoided by English language learners due to their complexity, due to the fact they've never experienced them before, due to the fact that they cannot comprehend them. They avoid phrasal verbs very often, which denies them a large part of their linguistic repertoire. So,
Okay, so That being said,
Sorry. Yeah.
so that being said, why do we teach them? If English language learners are just going to avoid them constantly, why bother even teaching them? So let's take a moment just to reflect how often you use phrasal verbs as native English speakers
Mhm.
on a daily basis.
all the
All right.
time.
All the time, right? We should all be reaching the conclusion, right? Making that realization that, well, all right, native speakers, right? Whether we realize it or not, we love using phrasal verbs. We use them all the time on a daily basis. However, as we previously mentioned, right, the meanings of these phrases are often lost on English language learners, right? Which is illustrated by this fun cartoon that we have on the right side of the slide
Right.
here,
Yeah.
all right? We need to branch out into, and this gentleman came prepared with his tree branches, right? Took it literally, all right? So as a result, right, this lowers language confidence, it can increase language anxiety, and it really limits potential interactions in the target language.
Yes.
So by teaching, all right, by teaching phrasal verbs, having our students understand what they mean and how to use them, right, we are promoting a sense of social inclusivity amongst their peers. Okay,
Yes.
they are able to tap into that linguistic repertoire that was otherwise unavailable to them.
Yes, and going off of what Julian said about that, if English language learners can't understand phrasal verbs in context of conversation, they're losing a large chunk of their listening comprehension.
Mhm.
They're not understanding like the meaning of these verbs.
Exactly. So now, very quickly, before we had mentioned the 3 dimensions of teaching the grammatical concept, right? So we have form, meaning, and use. And for this, we're going to take a look at the example take up and how we can address all 3 dimensions in teaching this particular phrase, right? So the form is very simple, right? The grammatical concept, the structure, the syntactic structure. So we can very simply say, well, it's a verb and a preposition. So we have take plus up, and that is our phrase. Then we get more into the semantic value of the phrase, right? The meaning, the specific definition, which is dependent on its context, right? In example A, the couch takes up a lot of the living room. Well, here means to occupy space. However, in B, I'd like to take up knitting as a hobby. Here, it's starting to do something, right? So it's use. How do we use it? Well, in example A, we use take up to talk about occupying space or time. And in example B, we use take up to talk about starting something new. So form, syntactic structure, meaning, semantic value, and use. Well, how exactly can you use these phrases? Okay, we have the 3 dimensions. In addition to that, we also have implicit versus explicit instruction, right? And we can teach them both implicitly and explicitly. So if we take an implicit approach, we can give various examples of the phrase used in a sentence or text and have students infer the meaning based on context clues. Explicitly, on the other hand, right, we're giving specific explanations and then having students use phrases correctly. However, we do strongly recommend an implicit approach for teaching phrasal verbs because it does promote critical thinking among students. It helps to familiarize themselves with the meaning of these verbs. All right, so this is important, being that the meaning of phrasal verbs changes depending on context, but it's also important to keep in mind this is also dependent on age and proficiency level. We need to first think whether or not this is an appropriate grammatical concept to be teaching them at all. So this is usually introduced perhaps at the high, intermediate, or advanced level. Also very important to consider. Okay, so that leads us into our first example classroom activity. And Nina, take it away.
Okay, so here we have an example of an activity that can be taught using phrasal verbs. Okay, so the name of this activity is called, Is This a Phrasal Verb? The description, students will have to decipher which picture is a phrasal verb and which is not based on what they see. So the phrasal verb will be provided to them, but they will have to create 2 sentences using each phrasal verb based on the context of the photos. Students will then have to explain the meaning of the phrasal verb in each photo depending on the context. So the modality of this activity will be speaking and writing, of course, focuses on the meaning and use of phrasal verbs, and why we've chosen this activity. Like we've been saying, phrasal verbs are often difficult for ELs to master because their meaning can change depending on the context. This activity aims to help students understand the difference in meaning between phrasal verbs and literal verb phrases based on context. Students will have to formulate sentences based on the phrasal verb or verb phrase in both contexts. This will expand their understanding of the difference in the meaning of phrasal verbs for speaking use as well as with writing. Okay, so as I previously mentioned, it will help students differentiate between the idiomatic and figurative meaning compared to a literal meaning of just a verb phrase. So what we are really trying to illustrate with this activity is that there is a clear difference between just a verb phrase and then a phrasal verb. So you're going to see in this activity how that differs. Okay, so for example, here we have two pictures. Sentence one, he put down the girl today when he insulted her and made her feel very sad. Here, we can infer that the phrasal verb put down means to insult someone. Then we have the alternative picture. Please put down your suitcase on the floor. Here, put down is a phrase and means to literally place something on the ground. However, this is not a phrasal verb. It is simply a verb phrase because it has no idiomatic meaning.
Also, it's important to mention that this particular activity makes use of visual aids, which are also incredibly helpful to illustrate those different meanings.
Absolutely. Okay, so first one we have here is fall apart. So on the left, we have a photo, and on the right, we have a photo. Now, we want you to interact with the photos. So type in the chat a sentence that you would use to describe the context of the first photo of the girl crying. How is fall apart used? Give us a sentence.
Yeah, absolutely, Lorraine. Right. That's excellent. The little girl's parents left her alone in her room and she fell apart. All right. Absolutely.
Okay.
When she hit, when she heard her kitten has died, she fell apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Bit of a morbid take there, Don, but absolutely. Absolutely, right? She is falling apart at the news. Yeah, perhaps the news that her kitten had died, right? Relating it to Don's sentence, right? So yeah, the girl lost her doll and she fell apart. Yeah, absolutely, Daisy, right?
exactly. So we can see that we're clearly illustrating the meaning of fall apart with this photo.
Mm.
Okay.
And now, yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to take the other photo and we're going to create a sentence for that. How do we contextually explain in a sentence, with a sentence, what fall apart means in this photo? Let's type it in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely, Nancy. Sandwich fell apart in my hands. Darn it, my delicious sandwich fell apart, so I had to use a fork. Absolutely, I love it. My burrito fell apart when I picked it up to eat. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Right. So when he picked up his sandwich, it fell apart. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we're really starting to get to the meat of it. We'll see, well, the phrase fall apart. Well, we can use it literally, we can use it figuratively, we can use it as a phrasal verb. All right, as we saw for the left picture for fall apart. Okay, when he picked up his sandwich, it fell apart. Absolutely. So now let's take a look at the next one.
Okay, all right. So
Hold on.
now we have hold on. So let's take a look at this first photo here. What sentence can we create that illustrates the meaning of hold on based on this photo?
Um,
Again, we're going to type it in the chat and see what everyone thinks. If I let go,
Let go, I'll die. I'd better hold on. Yeah, that's a good reason to hold on. Absolutely, Lorraine. Like your life depends on it.
You got it.
He
held
held on to the rope tightly. I have to hold on or I'll fall. Yeah, absolutely, Chris. All right. And now
All right. And now,
let's do.
all right, hold on. What sentence can we create with this?
For the picture on the right.
All right, so we have a few others, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to wrap this activity up by saying this is how we can illustrate, as we've seen, there is a literal and figurative meaning of these phrases. So that being said, here when we have hold on, do we think that this is idiomatic or literal? Yes.
Oh, for the picture, for each individual picture. So on the left, is it literal or figurative?
Yes, exactly.
Literal.
Yeah,
Yes.
literal.
Literal.
Exactly.
Literal,
Exactly.
hold on
Lit-
to something. On the right, it's like hold on. It is. So the
The
one on the
person.
right is going to be the phrasal verb, and that's what we'll illustrate to our students. Like
Mhm.
one is a phrasal verb because it has idiomatic meaning.
Mhm.
The other one is not because it's just a verb phrase. It is literally taken to hold on to something.
Mhm.
Again, this is why it's difficult for L's to comprehend the phrasal verbs because they do not have literal meaning.
Mhm.
Although I would still call hold
Mhm.
on a phrasal verb in both
Mhm.
contexts.
Mhm.
Because a
Right.
phrasal, right? But I mean, so, but I mean, the literal versus figurative is what I
Mhm.
would
Yes,
focus
exactly.
on.
Exactly, Lorraine. Exactly. All right. So
Yeah.
Lorraine hit the nail on the head, right? That's what really adds to the complexity of these phrases, right? That they have literal meaning, that they have figurative meaning, and they can be interpreted differently dependent on context, right? That's really the main point here. All right. So thank you, Lorraine, for sharing that, right? So
You're welcome.
we did have a few more examples, but for the sake of time, we're going to move very quickly into the secondary example classroom activity, which we call verb replacement, right? So in this activity, the language focus is reading and writing comprehension. The modalities focus on meaning and use. And the objective, of course, developing a deeper understanding of phrasal verbs through contextual use, proficiency, about high, intermediate, advanced. And the task, you're providing students with a text that contains several standard base form verbs. Students will then have to replace verbs and verb phrases with appropriate phrasal verbs while maintaining the meaning of the text. So let's take a look at an example of this, right? So the target phrasal verbs that we're teaching: to calm down, to put up with. And here we have a 3-word phrasal verb, right? To put up with. And the original text: if you're feeling upset with someone, it is important to relax and think about the situation first. Before you insult a person, try talking to them. But also remember, you do not have to tolerate abuse. Set boundaries. All right. And the task would be, well, replace the emboldened verbs with phrasal verbs. All right, with the target phrasal verbs. And by doing so, we would then have this new paragraph, right? If you're feeling upset with someone, it is important to calm down and think about the situation first. Before you put down a person, try talking to them. But also remember, you do not have to put up with abuse. Set boundaries. So we see the emboldened verbs have been replaced with the target phrases without changing the meaning of the text. All right. So, all right. By doing this, students are engaging in critical thinking by considering how each verb can be replaced, as well as associating meanings with the original verbs and the target phrases that are being taught. And of course, text can be modified to teach a wide array of phrasal verbs in a contextual way. This activity can also be done in reverse. So you can have students replace phrasal verbs with standard base form verbs, which will also, right, develop connections between the verbs and the target phrases. Okay. So now for our remaining time, I think we're doing okay on time. now that we've had an opportunity to discuss the challenges, some activities that we can implement into our own classrooms, now we're going to have the opportunity to develop our own activities.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
yeah, Nina. Mhm.
So now it's your turn. With your groups, create an activity using phrasal verbs. In the activity, be sure to include the name of it, your intended proficiency level, language focus, so speaking, listening, reading, or writing, the dimensions of your activity. So does it focus on form, meaning, or use, or many of them? A brief description of the activity and the procedural steps of the activity. What will your students actually be doing?
And of course, given the time constraints, these activities do not need to be fully, entirely fleshed out and, exhaustively detailed. What we're looking for, what's important is that we have just the main points. Okay, what you're focusing on, what the general idea of the activity is. Okay, so we're going to separate the room into breakout rooms once more. Breakout rooms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to have the same groups as before. So there will be some groups of 3, or mostly groups of 3 with one group of 4. Okay, so now we're opening the rooms and we will have about 15 to 20 minutes to complete this activity. Oh, Nina, we didn't share the
What?
the Google document form.
Oh,
Mm.
okay.
So I have to close all the rooms.
Uh-huh. Doing great.
That's okay. I do have it. I have it in the chat or in the bottom of the slide. I just forgot to include it. So about 10 seconds, everyone's going to be coming back. Okay, yeah, so we apologize for the confusion, everyone. We do actually have a shared Google document. So it's just for ease of use. We do have a shared Google document that I'm putting in the chat right now that everyone can use to actually type their activities. All right, so that is now shared in the chat. Everyone can go ahead and click that. It should be open and editable for anyone who has the link. If there are any issues concerning that, please let us know. Each group has their own page, group 1 through group 5. So that'd be based on room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4, and room 5. Yes.
I just got thrown out of my breakout. Can you? put
Yes,
us
Lorraine,
back
we
in?
apologize for that. We called everyone back because we forgot to share the shared Google document. So there's a shared
okay.
Google document. That's where you're going to be actually typing in your activity and your brainstorming.
Oh, okay, so then you're going to throw us back in to the
Exactly.
breakout?
So
Oh,
I'm going to
got it.
share the Google document one more time in the chat just to make sure that everyone has it. Okay. And once everyone has accessed that document, the rooms have now been reopened. Whenever you're ready, you can
Thank
re-enter.
you.
Yes, you're very welcome, Lorraine.
Mhm.
Daisy, Elise, Jay. And then finally, group 5 is Steph. Don, did you have a problem joining the breakout room? You're muted. We can't hear you. Okay, let's see. So,
Mm, let's see.
Okay, now I'm
Yeah.
unmuted,
yes.
and I was in my group,
Yeah.
and we were talking about. Anyway, can you get me back to my group?
Yes, of course, of course. So let me
I was going to
try.
explain to you what I would do, but I think I should probably be in my group, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Please, that would be best. So I'm going to reassign you
Okay,
to.
join. Okay, here I go.
So for
Talk
room
to you
2,
later.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Oh, that's funny. You're muted, Don. We can't hear you.
All right, so
Mm.
all right, yeah. So you can see if you're on the Google. Are you on the Google document right now?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
All right, I'm on it. So they're annotating. They're writing. I told you, Nina, that this would go by very quickly.
Oh my God, so quickly. Yeah, we have like 20 minutes left.
Yeah, so at 12:20. Oh, Don, you're muted again.
I got sent to the wrong room. I was
Okay,
with two
yeah.
women. I was with, and I don't know. I just got this thing and said join the group, and I joined. I'm sorry for being so difficult. I
Oh,
don't know
no,
what-
not a problem at all. So let me try moving you to, okay, to room 1. I believe there are 2
Yeah,
women in that room.
I've been
Yeah.
enjoying this. You guys are. I enjoy this subject.
Oh,
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you so
going to
much,
try
Don.
again.
Yes, go for it, Don. You're writing.
awesome. Okay, so Julian,
Mhm.
everything is going according to plan.
Yep, everything is going very, very well.
Okay, so someone's talking about replaceable like you did.
Mhm. Yeah, the verb replacement. Mhm.
Yeah, that's good.
We have write a story using phrasal verbs in it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Um, for high, intermediate, high level, using realia words to a song and replace phrasal verbs or vice versa. Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Group 4 and group 5 haven't done anything yet. That's okay. They have time to think about it.
How long are we giving them? 20 minutes? 15?
Yeah, we're going to we'll stop it at 12:25, just before the end. Unfortunately, right, due to time constraints, we're not going to be able to go through all of the activities and share and annotate.
Right.
However, they do, of course, they still have access to the document even after the presentation. Right, so well, we'll encourage them to revisit the document, to complete their activities, to read through the activities that their peers developed, and to annotate them in order to give feedback. So at 12:25, I want to give them some time to think about it. All right, so I'm monitoring the document. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of work being done.
Mm,
Oh, group 5 finally put something on the page. That's good. 4 must still be brainstorming. That's okay. They still have some time. Group 3 is developing. That's good. Group 2 developing. Excellent. Okay, so group 4 created their own section on the first page, so that's fine. That's good. That is good. Yeah, so group 1, write a story. So we have some writing comprehension with pre-reading, with a pre-reading task. So we're incorporating reading and writing modalities. That's very good. Group 2, so they used my example activity,
okay.
the verb replacement.
Mhm.
Task replace the bold verbs. Yeah, that's excellent. That's good. Group 3 is developing the use of realia. Great for flashcards. Yeah. The use of flashcards. Absolutely. It's really good. With a follow-up activity using realia words to a song and replace phrasal verbs, vice versa. That's really good. Focus, listening, speaking, writing, dimensions. Provided with images. Displaying. Okay, so group 5 has used your example activities inspiration, Nina.
Really?
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. And group 5 is incorporating the use of visual aids, images,
Mhm. Okay.
and group 1 is using group 2 is using the verb replacement.
Mhm.
That's good.
Okay.
That's really, really good. Yeah, so we're going to give them about 10 more minutes. At 12, around 12:24, we'll start calling them back. Because it takes about 60 seconds for the Zoom rooms to close out.
And then are we gonna have time to have them like present?
No, we will not have time for them to present, unfortunately, like I said, due to time constraints. However, we're going to encourage them to revisit these documents, right? Because they do have access to it even after the workshop.
Yeah.
Going to encourage them to revisit the document, to complete their activities, and also to leave peer feedback for their for the other groups by annotating the document, making comments on what they like, how things can be changed, so on and so forth. So it's good. It's a post workshop task.
Mhm.
Should they feel so inclined to do so, I think that would be really, really good for them. Because they can add these activities to their own like personal activity portfolios. It gives them the opportunity to provide peer feedback for the others. So
Right.
so that's how we're going to do this. And
Mhm.
have about 8 minutes left. Because remember, we do also need to give them some time for the evaluation form.
Yeah.
So. Placement. Yeah, I like this a lot, right? The use of realia words and lyrics to a song. It's very creative
Oh, yeah, that is really
for
cool.
group 3.
Hmm.
Group 3, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
They're all really good ideas. Group 4
Oh,
is incorporating charades. Very
okay.
creative. I love that. Very creative. Group 5, the use of visual aids. All right. To introduce phrasal verbs in a contextualized manner based on specific categories, social activities. Excellent.
Okay. Look at all these people we've inspired, Julian.
That's the goal. No, this is incredible. This is incredible. All of these activities are
wow.
excellent.
So good.
And given a relatively short amount of time, they were
Yeah.
able to put their heads together and come up with these activities.
Mhm.
After our discussion, this is
Yeah, it is incredible.
inspiring for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
As not only as a presenter, but as a student myself
Hmm.
and as an instructor. This is
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the way we put this presentation together was all very like strategic and like well done. Like we started with like the warm up, had them kind of like think about what
mhm.
they're going to be doing and like spark interest. And then like everything we did, like I feel like we really gave them like the tools to be able to like have ideas, create activities. Yeah.
All right, so I just broadcasted a message to everyone, letting them know they have about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
I'll be adding these activities to my portfolio.
No, right?
Yeah, these are fantastic.
Yeah.
These are really, really good. Which really was the goal, for this to be a mutually beneficial experience. We're all learning from each other. This network of educators.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So we have about 4 more minutes. Really good. Really, really good.
Just a quick reminder, you have under
Yes.
10 minutes left.
Thank you, Sid. Appreciate it.
I'm really excited for Mary to watch this. No, I think she's gonna be really impressed. No, you don't think so?
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm really focused on reading through their ideas. Yeah, the use of charades, that's
Yeah.
really good.
The rabbit and the turtle.
Hmm. Yeah, the verb replacement we have. All right, use of realia, flashcards. Great. Absolutely. All right, so it's 12:25, 12:24 now. So I'm going to begin closing out all the rooms
Okay.
because they're given 60 seconds to close out. We'll also have to forego the Q&A,
Right.
but we can invite them to contact us if they have any questions or anything that they'd like to discuss. I'll put my email in the chat and they can,
Okay.
and you can put yours as well.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, we're giving them just a few more seconds. They should all be back very soon.
I love the song.
Yeah, it's very creative. Okay, I believe that's everyone. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you were all working and developing your activities, I was following along on the document, and I just wanted to say that you guys did an incredible job putting these activities together within a relatively short amount of time. They're all very creative, and I will be adding these to my own personal portfolio of activities.
Yeah.
Incredible job. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we will not be able to discuss them as a whole. However, you do all have access to this document even post workshop. So I highly encourage all of you, if you feel so inclined to do so, to revisit this document and to complete whatever activities you have begun, if you would like to, in addition to annotating the activities of your peers and leaving some feedback for them as well, what you like, what could be changed, what you might do differently. Okay, but incredible job, everyone. Thank you all so much for your creativity and for participating, for being engaged in the activities. Unfortunately, we will also not have time for the Q&A session. However, I do invite all of you, should there be anything that any questions, any comments, anything that you'd like to further discuss post workshop, I invite you all to shoot me an email, which I will be providing in the chat. And Nina will also be doing that as well. Please feel free to send me an email with any questions, comments, or anything that you'd like to discuss. And Don, thank you very much for posting that as well. I'll definitely check that out. Again, thank you so much for attending our workshop, engaging in discussions, participating in the activities. Please feel free to use and share all of the activities in this workshop, both ours and your peers in your classrooms. Add them to your portfolio of activities. And also, if we all focus our attention back to the chat, our host has posted a link to the workshop evaluation form. So for the last 3 or so minutes of this workshop up until 12:30, we'd really appreciate it if you were able to complete that evaluation. Okay. After which point you are all free to enjoy the rest of your Saturdays.